All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you.
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Good evening and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Dan Labona.
And I'm David Ulloa. And we are here today to keep our, is it
our
a double
tour of
feature?
Japan? Yeah, it's a double. It's a Japanese double feature.
Let's call it our tour of Japan. I like that. So our tour of Japan going as we discuss I think one of the cult classics of this era of Japanese horror. So we are talking verses. So in a section that we're calling something old, something new. Daniel, what's your relationship with this movie, and how would you say you feel about it?
Yeah, so this movie very similar to how I was with Battle Royale. This was part of early 2000s Daniel's just getting on message boards and getting suggestions for stuff from Asia to watch for horror films. I saw the description. I was like, yeah, I've got to see that. So I imported this movie at some point in the early 2000s. I have watched it multiple times. You know, the thing about this movie is it a classically good movie? No. Is the dialogue stilted at times? Yes. Does the plot make a lick of sense? No. But ultimately, does any of that fucking matter? Hell no. This movie is like a Japanese exploitation film made in 2000. This movie has got a little bit of everything. Yes, it is horror. There are zombies. There's maybe vampires, right? Like there's all sorts of stuff. It's very gory. There's a lot going on. But this movie it's so impossible to kind of tie down as one thing, right? If you had an action movie, podcast or whatever, like, yeah, you could do it on that one. This one's fantasy. This one's kind of sci-fi in a little bit of a way, it does a little bit of everything, but there are definitely some horror elements to this, and it's worthy of us talking about it. I find myself every time I remember that this movie exists and going back and watching it, being surprised again, enjoying it again. And ultimately, you just have a good damn time when you watch this movie. It's ridiculous in some of the best ways. It's fun. This movie is just a lot of fun.
Fun, I think, is the best way to describe Versus. This is one that I stumbled upon when I want to say when I was in college, or maybe like just after that time, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I didn't watch it a lot, but when I would watch it, I'd just sit and veg out and watch this thing.
Yeah.
I will say, after watching Battle Royale, some of the comments that I had about Battle Royale, I have about Versus after this watching. I think it's about half an hour too long.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you that.
And one of the things about fun movies is that they clock in at just the right amount of time. And so this is not going to get a perfect score from me. It is going to get a high score because it is a lot of fun. But it's not going to get a perfect score because it is too long. And there is such a long period of time where not much other than style is happening.
Yeah.
And I love the style of this movie. I almost feel like if Quentin Tarantino were to do a horror movie, it would probably look and sound like this.
A lot like this. Yes.
Yeah, because this movie draws from a lot of the inspiration that Tarantino also has. And coming in 2000, this is well into the Tarantino years. So there's a little bit of crossover there. This was Kitamura's first movie, so he's still kind of establishing himself. There's some things that happen here where I'm like, I'm not sure why that was the choice, the directorial choice there, but it's always a good choice. That's one of the things here. To me, really, if it weren't for the runtime, this would be an absolutely perfect movie. But unlike Battle Royale, this movie doesn't attempt to say anything. And I
Correct.
love that because I gave Battle Royale some shit for attempting to have social commentary, but not really commit to the social commentary. This movie does not attempt to become elevated at all. It's just like, here's a really cool fucking story.
Yeah.
And you're not even going to know what the story is until about like 30 minutes before this thing ends. So you're just going to watch some dude murder the fuck out of people. And you're going to watch that guy in the most 90s looking suit just ass off for 2 hours. So ultimately I do love this movie, though it does have a fault, but wow, I love this movie.
Yeah, like there are things about this movie that that you end up like there are things about this movie that are now going to be like checklist items for me about whether or not something kicks ass. Like, does the hero does the hero decapitate a villain with an enziguri kick? Check. Does he manifest a motorcycle so he can ride off into the fucking sunset? Because there was no motorcycle before that moment. He just made that shit appear. Check. Does heaven give the hero a giant fucking sword? Like, these are the types of things that are just gonna those are gonna be standards for me now. It's like, this movie was good, but man, he did not get a sword from heaven. So it's you end up seeing so much and we'll talk about it more when we get to characters, but like everybody in this is such a personality and like so ridiculous. Like we talked last week about how Battle Royale had like this manga feel to it. Like, everybody in this is an anime hero or villain.
Yeah.
Full send.
Or both.
Yeah, or both. Yeah. Like there is nobody in this that's like just a normal person. And the movie is better for it because of that. Absolutely. There is not a single person in this that you're like, hey, that's kind of like somebody I know. No, these people are insane. And they're and like I said, it's full speed ahead on the way the characters are, on what the action is. Like, it's just relentless with what it's doing. And even in those moments where it does kind of drag, like you were saying, stylistically, we still get something that's just beautiful to watch. One thing that's always interesting about going back to these early 2000s films is you get a lot of these that were shot in such a way that I don't think they can be upscaled. Like, when we go back and we get a lot of these that are right around the time when the movement in digital, not film, was becoming big, there's a roadblock there in upscaling those. Like, the one that I always point to is, if you go back and watch 28 Days Later right now, it's still a phenomenal film, but it looks like it was shot on a cell phone. Because there's just there's some sort of gap in there. It's like, if it was on film, you can upscale it because that quality was so high. If it comes after this certain demarcation in what digital could do, then they can go back and remaster it and it looks amazing. But there's this run in the 2000s where those things are never upscaled. Like, they're never gone back and remastered. And honestly, I think this movie is better for it. As you watch it, and even though it's in, it's like 720 or whatever, just not what we're used to, there's still a grainy feel to it at times. There's still those moments that almost make it feel like watching some sort of grindhouse film as it's going. And so, yes, there are those moments where it drags, but like you said perfectly, the style that we get in those moments is so good. And that style goes everywhere from Predator style violence to something that looks like, to stills that look like they came straight out of a colored Kurosawa film, like and everything in between. He really just kind of threw everything he could think of and everything that he loved into this movie. Like, this is a hell of a freshman effort when it comes to directing. I mean, because this movie predates Midnight Meat Train by what, 7, 8, 9 years, something like that.
Yeah, Midnight Meat Train, I think, is 08.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. So I mean, and by the time that came out, it's like, holy shit, look at this movie, right? But you're seeing this. And you're seeing that this is literally just a guy who's like, I may never get to make another movie, so let me make them all at once. Like, that's the feel you get from this movie. It's like, what if I never get to make another movie, but this has been my life goal and I have all these ideas. I better put them all right here.
Every time that we see a movie like that, that movie ends up being better for that. When you're just in the kitchen, you're like, man, this shit has got to feed a lot of people. You're throwing everything in there. Like, does rosemary go? Like, I don't know, but it's going to thicken the sauce, and you're just throwing shit in there. Evil Dead, Phantasm are the other two that I can think of where it's like, we may never make another movie again because we're going to lose all this money that we were just given.
Right.
And if this doesn't work, we can't pay people back. Like, it's that sort of thing. This actually, interestingly, was shot on film.
Oh, really? Okay.
The reason why it looks like shit is because it was shot on 16 millimeter film, which is teeny tiny little film. So for those of you that are not into like the technical aspects of stuff, most movies are shot on 35 millimeter film, right? So 16 is about half the size of that. So you're talking about like an area that's recording that is like much, much smaller than it should be. So when you blow it up to 35 millimeters so that you can make prints to show in theaters, you're going to lose resolution. You're going to, it's the same thing as taking, say, like a 1080p image, right? So like a regular high def image and blowing it up to 4K, you're something's losing out there.
Right.
It's going to get pixelated. It's not going to look good. The same thing happens with film. There's a point where you're like, I'm giving her all she's got and she ain't got no more. And that's kind of what happens here, where like a 35 millimeter print, you can do that. Once you start going bigger than that, and you've got these screens that are such high resolution screens, it's like playing Super Mario Brothers on an 8K TV.
Right. There's only so much. Well, see that I assumed it was the digital thing, but that is good to know. So we've hit all around it. I mean, let's talk about what's in this movie. So in a section we're calling zombies. No, wait, vampires? Demons? I mean, there's a lot going on. Like we said, he threw everything in here. I mean, how does it work for you, man? What do you think about the story of this movie?
There is a story. I can't decide whether the story matters, though, because as cool as everything is, and as cool as everyone is, there is a reason for them to be there. And the final scene of the movie totally throws you for a whirl. You're like, oh shit, there's, and it seems like this everlasting battle of good and evil.
Yes, it's something old, something new, destined to do this forever.
I hate to say this specific thing, but I feel like Highlander did this better.
Fair.
And to say that Highlander did it better, I love Highlander, but high cinema, it is not.
You're telling me that Sean Connery's Spaniard was no good for you?
No better than Christopher Lambert's Scott. No. There's so much potential here, and we say a lot that we don't need to be spoon-fed things, but I feel like the story is underdeveloped, and that is, I think, tied into my one issue with this movie, where it's just too damn long. And I think it's too damn long not because it's a long movie, because I'm never bored. Like, even when it's just slicing and dicing that's happening, I'm having a blast. But when it's all over, I'm like, all right, so we're gonna find out some shit now, right? No, we're gonna do some more slicing and dicing, which is great, right? We were just talking about Doom, right? I think
Yeah.
Doom works best when there's just like very little story, and it's like, all right, now let's just go fuck up some
Yeah,
demons.
like my brother was like, "Did you play 2016?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Oh, you jumped in on the second one." I was like, "See demon, shoot
Does it
demon. Like, how
matter?
much
Yeah,
story do I need?"
yeah, exactly. And Eternal's got a lot of story.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the area where there is something lacking here, because there's so much potential here. These characters are all kind of like plug and play in the best way possible. This never-ending struggle for good and evil, these manga anime style caricatures, because like they don't even have names. It's just
Right.
inmate, it's yakuza
Yes.
leader,
The
it's
man.
the man, yeah, crazy yakuza, like that's these guys' names. So I love that the story gives us almost Terrifier like the ability to just jump from one situation to the next. But something that I think Damien Leone really gets right is that balance between, now we're just jumping to the next situation and I'm giving you enough story to keep you hooked.
Right.
This was, interestingly, the first time of the many times I've seen this movie where I was like, but nothing's happening. So I made a comment to you, Daniel, that my son Link jumped in on the last like maybe 50 minutes of the movie. I think it was actually 52 minutes. That's what was left. And he told me when the movie was over, he's like, "Man, that was awesome." He's like, I can't believe that I missed the first hour of this." And I was like, "Well, you didn't really miss anything." I kind of gave him the little bit of information here and there that he needed, and that was all.
Yeah, so they kind of give us this story of there's these two escaped prisoners. We don't know why they're being helped. We eventually find out they're in a resurrection forest, and there's this guy who's been around for at least 500 years trying to open this one of the 666 portals to the other side, to hell.
Very convenient number.
Yeah, exactly. And he needs this one guy who was a prisoner. He needs this one girl because, like we said, destined to do this forever. They're always going to be reincarnated. This is just their lot in eternity, is that they're supposed to fight each other. One's going to win, one's going to lose. Something's going to go wrong. They have to redo it. And so, I mean, that's the whole story. We get this little bit about how on this particular life, the main character, the protagonist, the prisoner guy, is he's a worse person than he was 500 years ago. And so, but for the purposes of what they're doing, it works out better this time. We get that little bit. We get these cuts to 500 years ago where they're doing this in feudal Japan. And it's all the same, actors, and they're all, basically in the same roles, just with feudal Japanese weapons. And so we get all of this in a way that keeps it moving. But this is the action sci-fi fantasy version of a slasher film. It's just enough to get us from one fight to the next, which honestly, there are plenty of animes that have been very successful doing that for multiple seasons. they tell a story, but the story is really just like, okay, well, yeah, but now we need another Dragon Ball. Oop, there's another giant guy that I've got to fight for the next 3 weeks. Like that's it.
It did feel an awful lot like that. And I know that Dragon Ball Z was the big one that was out at this time.
Yeah.
I wonder if that sort of like, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk things out while we power up.
Yeah.
Influence this in some way. I hadn't even connected that.
And so it's got a lot of those feels, but I mean, then there are some things that this movie just does so like wonderfully and so geniusly. People always want to have the argument when they find, people find out you love horror films, and there's like a list of things that they're immediately going to ask you. One of the things on that list that the risk that you always run when people find out you're super into horror films, they go, oh, well, do you like running zombies or shuffling zombies? Look, we can have this, fine. But now do you want to talk about whether or not like running zombies, shuffling zombies, or zombies that can use guns and martial arts? Again, constant checklist items. Like, yeah, running, shuffling, that's all great. This one sprung out of the grave, guns akimbo. And then when he got disarmed, used kung fu. Like, why are we arguing about whether or not it's better if they shuffle or not? These zombies exist. And so, again, just fun stuff like that. And so many of the things that the characters did were just absolutely anime hero and villain type things. When the zombie springs from the earth, double guns akimbo, our hero puts his gun in his mouth so that he can disarm double gunned zombie, and then shoots down like 3 of them until he's out of ammo in those 2, then goes back to the gun in his mouth. Because why waste these bullets? You just gave me 2 more. Those are the types of things that make this movie stand out. This really does seem like one of those, you sit in meetings all the time where people go, there's no stupid ideas. And then somebody says something, you go, that's a stupid idea. The idea room for this was there are no stupid ideas, and they literally wrote down everything that everyone said and squeezed it in here somehow, and that's how this movie ended up being 2 hours long.
It does kind of seem that way, where it's again going back to this idea, like, we may only ever get to make this one movie, so why waste any ideas? For its budget, this movie was made for $10,000. Right.
Incredible.
Yeah.
If we knew what we were doing, we could raise $10,000.
You can barely go on vacation for $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's just to go get drunk in the Caribbean. Not shitting on getting drunk in the Caribbean. I'm going to go do that in just a couple of weeks. But wow, that is insane. Like, that's virtually no money when we're talking about movies. That is no money. It's wild that anything in this movie works at all. So when you've got no money, you're like, this is it. This is our one shot. You do it. So I understand that. I would like to see a cut of this movie that is less about look at this cool idea and more about the narrative. Because I do feel like the narrative gets lost in the cool. That's something that I occasionally say about guys like Wes Anderson. Sometimes it's so much about the aesthetic and not really about what's going on. It's like, hang on a second. We've been sitting here looking at this same symmetrical image for like 10 minutes. What the fuck are we doing here?
Right.
And I kind of felt like that watching this time around, where it was like, okay, cool. That's a really cool thing that zombie can do. I think it would work better as a graphic novel. Yeah. Which I know we said about Battle Royale also. I think this works better as a manga, graphic novel, maybe even a TV show. If you kind of expand it.
Yeah.
This makes a really cool TV show. Limited, engagement thing. Like, make it 3-4 episodes. Didn't have to be very long. But I do feel like occasionally look what I can do. Look what I can do. Kind of gets a little gets in the way of the movie.
Yeah, I do. I love how in all of that, one of the things that is so endearing about this movie is, even though at its core, it's this epic struggle of good versus evil, and like I keep saying, destined to do this forever, and we're trying to save the world from a hellmouth being opened. At its core, that's what this movie is, and yet it never once takes itself seriously. Like there are a couple times where we get like some great like I said, some kung fu samurai movie style shots that come across as serious. And then something happens that just like completely washes that away, and not in a bad way. One of my favorites is at the very beginning, when the prisoner gets upset that they've taken this woman hostage. His reason for being upset, even though he doesn't know her, is, I'm a feminist. He then proceeded to knock her unconscious twice so she would not get in his way, attempt to a third time before she caught on to what he was doing, and slap her a fourth time by the end of the movie so she stayed out of the way. That type of stuff. The fact that we've got one guy whose only job is comedic relief. Guy in Yakuza in long sleeve black button up.
Crazy Yakuza is his
he's to the point that this guy gets shot in the butt at one point, and it was saved by I'm not even sure what it was, some sort of bag that he had in his back pocket, right? So we go from one scene where they shoot at the lead zombie vampire, I can give you eternal life guy. I believe he's just credited as the man.
Yep.
He catches a handful of buckshot. I have seen movies where bad guys and supervillains catch bullets, and it's always cool. It's so much infinitely cooler to catch a fist full of buckshot and then just drop it to the ground smoking. Like the effect of all of those pieces dropping instead of just that one solitary bullet, insane. So we've got this guy. So we get this really super serious moment. And then the next thing we've got is crazy Yakuza, face covered in blood, getting shot in the butt and screaming like something out of an Abbott and Costello sketch. And they're like back-to-back scenes. Like there's no break. There's no, okay, now we're gonna, no, it's just like, you don't know at any point if what you're getting is a serious part of the storyline, or if you're gonna get some really like crooked one-liner that maybe hits, maybe doesn't, or if you're just about to get some sort of great kung fu scene down to like the guy like getting into his pose and cracking his neck with like the really audible, slow crack, like something out of Enter the Dragon. They just do it all with no reason for it to be following what happened before it stylistically. And so while that can be an issue, like you said, it's so easy to just sit down and just enjoy this movie and just enjoy how much fun it is. They did, just little things like all of that stuff. At one point when green shirt business Yakuza, I believe he's accredited as Yakuza with butterfly knife. He, like at one point he just like, they run off and he just kind of gives this really weird face and like looks like an emoji as he just shrugs his hand out to the side with his gun. He's constantly shooting with his pinky up, like just barely holding the gun. Like, so you're in the middle of a big fight and you've still got this guy acting insane. So it's like, you can only take so much of that so seriously, which is to the betterment of this movie.
It absolutely is. And I do feel like I don't want to call it lack of attention to detail, because I do feel like it's intentional. But that sort of like really abrupt cut from this like super badass, like amazing moment to like, here's crazy Yakuza, blood all over his face, hopping around like a monkey, right?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck is this? And that sort of chaos plays into the whole experience. I personally love it. Throughout all of this, what we have been doing is referencing the character moments. So I feel like we should move into a section we're calling no names, but lots of personality. Who are the characters that for you are like, this is the standout?
Okay. So in life, there are two definitive things that people are allowed. You are allowed to have an opinion about anything you absolutely want. Have an opinion. Please do. You are 100% allowed. You are also 100% allowed to be wrong. And if anybody but Yakuza with butterfly knife, green shirt, business suit, Yakuza is not your favorite character in this movie, then you're wrong.
You are wrong. Yeah.
Because he is a whole ass movie in himself. Like I said, that the way he does everything with flair. Like I said, whenever he's shooting, it's his pinky's up, his gun's limp wristed, held sideways, yet he still never misses. He does it. Until the moment when the man literally gives him like the make your heart explode punch from Kill Bill. He never breaks a sweat. He doesn't stress anything. The prisoner runs off. He's like, well, I give a fuck. I'm about to be in charge. Like, this is about to be my crew, and like his crazy band of couldn't be more 90s mercenaries show up and he thinks he's won, like just all of that stuff. And he's good. He is cool, calm, and collected through all of that. And then he gets killed and brought back. And then he's some sort of weird burrowing in the earth, howling like wolf zombie thing. And it's fantastic. And it's fan-fucking-tastic. And then when we get a view of him 500 years before, he's still the crazy one. He's got some sort of feudal Japanese war hammer that he's absolutely laying waste to this samurai with. And he's still just nuts. He was the perfect blend of the action and comedy that everybody else seemed to be on either side of the spectrum, because that's how far this movie goes, from horror action to horror comedy. He is the midpoint. You're either more or less serious than him. You're either more or less badass than him. He is the linchpin that holds so much of this movie together. And every single time I watch it, I love him more.
Every time I watch this, I hope that he ends up killing everyone.
Yes.
I hope that he ends up being like the man, and that it's him and the girl just together at the end, and that they fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
And that it just becomes like an Odd Couple situation.
That would be incredible. That's the spinoff we deserved.
His energy is such that he is the hero of this movie.
Yes.
And in his mind, he is. But the thing is that also in my mind, he is. So it's kind of like Deadpool. Like,
yes.
If Deadpool ended up not surviving, that's what the fuck this is.
Yes. Yeah, that dude he's chaos incarnate. He's fun. He's skilled at what he's doing, to the point that he gives up on his gun because he just wants to have fun with it, at that point, and he's just going double knives. I mean, he's really the only person other than the main antagonist, who at any point kind of successfully went hand to hand with the prisoner, the main guy. And that's because at one point, yes, he kind of he's losing to one of the mercenaries, but that's just because at that point we're starting to get that development of him changing, and the girl has told him no more killing, so he's trying to not kill her. He's trying to just fight. When he's actually wide open, Butterfly Knife Yakuza's the only guy who goes toe-to-toe with him and has him a couple of times. He's got the knife right at his throat. Mm-hmm. He's got the knife at his gut. He has the drop on him a couple of times, or at least has equal footing with him. And he's the only person who does that.
Yeah. And in fact, I would say, like, the only reason he doesn't do the prisoner in at any point is because he foresees himself being able to play with him more.
Yeah, he even says, great, I'll kill him here so I get to do it twice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's, just Batman can't kill the Joker because what is Batman without the Joker, or vice versa? So it's that exact thing. He's like the Japanese version of like Heath Ledger's Joker. He's just an anarchist. What does he say? He's a dog chasing cars. He wouldn't know what to do if he caught one. That's where he is. He gets him into those situations, and he's like, but if I kill you now, yeah, where's the fun? Like, what do I do next?
Yeah. Oh, that is perfect. Perfect analogy. All right, so I'm going to talk about Hideo Sakaki, who is the man.
Yeah.
And I know it's like we should talk about the hero, about the prisoner, but dude, this guy is just so good. He is perfect.
Yes.
He's just like nonplussed. Nothing bothers him. Nothing ever bothers this guy. Like, you're in my way, I will just punch a hole into you and walk through you. Wild, right? And then his Highlander style, like, I'm going to consume you.
Yes.
That will give me life. That will help open up this portal, right? He is so not evil about it. Like, that's the thing that to me really sells this. Like, he doesn't see himself as bad,
right?
This is just like he's on a mission from God, and God is him. So
right,
I'm doing this because I gotta, because there's a voice in my head telling me, hey, you gotta kill her and open up this portal. Why? I don't know. Why are you asking questions?
Man,
like, don't just don't ask the fucking questions. Just fucking die.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill you. All right. So there's an agreement. Like, that's everything in his mind. I love that. And then the context that we're given at the end of the movie where he shows up again, and you're like, oh, but he was fucking dead. So what the fuck is going on here? Right. Like, I love that there's that showdown there. And then that the girl tells him, I should have gone with you.
Yes.
Like, whoa, dude, like, you were so evil and like didn't care about it. And now this guy's even worse than you?
Exactly.
What
That's
the fuck?
There's nothing left of this world to destroy. So take me to the other side, brother. Like, that moment when it becomes that moment where the story on a dime turns and becomes this idea of absolute power corrupting absolutely. Because we have now seen what has happened of 99 years under the rule of the prisoner, and he's destroyed the world. The other guy had 500 years, and he just hung out and he was just biding his time. 500 years. It took the protagonist 99 years to wreck everything and then just give up on it all and realize, there was nothing left. The man in this movie, again, he's so chill and he's so cool with it all. There's nothing that's happening that's phasing him. Even when he realizes he's been ambushed by the three mercenaries, not shaken, fights back for a second, takes the bullets, then gets his little, Frankenstein style sit up like the Undertaker. You've watched Taker get beat for 40 minutes, and then he just sits straight up and puts his hands in his pockets and lays waste to these people. He's just, and like, his facial hair should be stupid, but on him it kind of rules. And he just, because everything he does is so great, man. That final showdown, or not the final showdown before the 99 years later kind of stinger, when he does get his sword into the prisoner, and we get that great, really stylistic, like, hip shoulder turn, and then he cranks his wrist and like moves the sword up, but with no strain or effort on his face. Just boom, boom, and he's up And it's something that you see all the time when you watch these types of movies. It's a very, very popular stylistic way for somebody to die. But he does it in a way where he might as well have been tying his shoe or stepping on a bug, because this was his destiny. Every single thing he does is done with no malice. The one time it seems like he's upset when he finds out that the girl has already used her blood of resurrection. And so he's like, oh no, nothing's going to work out. And then we get that turn where it's like, oh no, he saw this coming. This is exactly how it planned on happening. And this is how it had to happen. The one time he gets upset, it was just putting on a show for the girl. He's the definition of cool, calm, and collected, while attempting to open a portal to hell and potentially end the world. He just does it all so well. It's awesome to watch him do it. So for next, I want to just talk about, this is a guy who has possibly the least amount of screen time in the movie, but has the most ridiculous lines. So we talked about Crazy Yakuza, and he's the comic relief when it comes to like physical comedy. He's the Tim Conway. He's the one who's tripping over everything and getting shot in the ass. He's doing all the physical comedy. When it comes to delivering absolute nonsense in the most deadpan way possible and making me laugh hysterically, it's Fighter, the FBI guy, who is wearing a suit that is 3 sizes too big for him. This is the type of guy that when you go to a bar with him, you've never done anything where he hasn't done something better. And it's so infuriating in real life, but the way that he plays it out in this movie is so funny. He's an FBI guy trained in Langley. Sure. He grew up in Yellowstone National Park, but wait, in Canada, Yellowstone National Park in Canada. So he's an excellent hunter. He has excellent sense of smell like a dog breeder, because we all know dog breeders and their sense of smell. All the while, this guy's weapon of choice is a fucking Intercontinental. It's like an MCB 102. It is this massive thing that is in no way meant to be a portable weapon. And he's just carrying this beast around. Because why? Because he's got to hunt for 2 escaped prisoners. 2. He's apparently putting up a 2 made balloons on my screen. That was interesting.
Is it because it's peace? Is that why?
Maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things we can never activate again. It just happens randomly. But this is a guy who's so hell-bent on tracking down 2 prisoners that he runs down. Now you just look like Richard Nixon. He just runs down one of them in the street or on the road. He's like, take him out. Problem solved. He's so absolutely ridiculous but then again, stylistically, the really classic moment of when you would see in like a traditional type of samurai movie or something, you would see like a Yakuza take off his jacket to expose those big curved tattoos they always have on their chest. Mm-hmm. He pulls off this oversized business blazer so that you can see his pants are way too big, pulled up to just below his nipples. His tie is too short and his shirt is wrinkly. It's so fucking funny. But then he still gets a great fight and even manages to dodge a bullet at one point. He still gets his flowers for being awesome while also just being like in tears funny to me no matter how many times I see this movie.
He and the one-handed cop reminded me of C-3PO and R2-D2.
Oh my God. As soon as you say it, I see it, but I didn't think of that.
Where it's, I could just, we see it, It's like, I'm going to go look for them over that way. Like, what are you doing over that way? There's nothing over there. You're going to lose another hand if you go that way. Like, I loved the way that these two interacted. He is the funny one, though.
Yeah.
Although some of the physical humor of, the one-handed thing, like when he's jabbing crazy Yakuza with like his stump, that was really funny. But, man, he is just, you said everything that needed to be said about him. I'm not going to sit here and regurgitate it. But I will say that is like a David Byrne level.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Never stops being funny. So I am going to go with, for my second, Minoru Matsumoto, who plays Crazy Yakuza. So this guy hops around like he's walking on fire the whole movie. I don't understand. Like, there is no drug that I know, and I went to college, right? there's no drug that I know of that makes someone behave this way. Like, what the fuck is this guy on? Because I want some of that. His energy level is like the Energizer Bunny couldn't catch up to this guy. He's just fucking wild. Absolutely wild. His over the top, I mean, everyone is over the top in this movie, but if someone were the most over the top, I think it would have to be him. And that is, if that's not a success story in a movie where the cast is this funny and this over the top, I don't know what is. I love, and there's a couple of characters who do this, but I think he does it best. I love that he is constantly inching towards you with the gun.
Yes. Like he's gonna poke you with it.
You realize that thing is just as effective from like 100 yards back.
Yeah, it's
right?
a Desert Eagle, man. It'll blow a hole in somebody from distance too.
And that's the thing. Like, this is a little dude. I don't know the heights of all the actors that are in this movie. I always assume that actors are taller than average, right? But this guy is small by anyone's standards. I might be taller than this guy.
Right.
And I'm like Hobbit sized. So seeing this guy hop around so fucking angry and happy and sad, and like the range of emotions that he gives, this is an Oscar worthy performance. I am not being facetious. This is one of the greatest performances of our generation.
He's crazy. They're all crazy, but he's crazy in his own way, to the point that, he's the one who gets the title of Crazy Yakuza. But his style, he's the one guy who seems to be overwhelmed by this. That's the thing. For as much as we talk about how all of these people are anime villains and heroes and caricatures, he's the one guy who does seem to be slightly grounded in reality and is freaked out by all of this. Everybody else takes this remarkably well in stride. Zombies, yeah, we killed most of them and they're angry at us. Let's go. You got the one guy with sweater wearing glasses, Yakuza, who is just strapped endlessly. He's got the sawed off and he's good with all of it. Crazy Yakuza is the one guy who seems to look around and be like, why is nobody else? Yeah, are you guys seeing the same thing I'm seeing? Like, not only are these zombies, but they're ones that we killed, so they're probably personally mad at us. He's the one guy putting all of this together, and it's hilarious. And and then we see he gets his ass kicked by the mercenary girl before he accidentally shoots two of his partners in this, one in the arm and one he actually kills. There it goes. I did it again. He he accidentally shoots 2 of his own people without ever. I don't think he actually ever did damage to like a zombie, right? Like, or to the protagonist. I don't think he ever actually accomplished anything except for damaging the people who were on his side. It's such a bizarre performance, but you're right, because in something where everyone is so bizarre, that he's the most normal one, even though he's the one we get called crazy. Yes, and that's what makes him strange. It's truly fascinating. I'm gonna go one more, and it's because I do want to talk about Tak Sakaguchi, who plays the prisoner, the main guy. His performance is super two-dimensional. And so but I am familiar with some of his other work. By the way, if you've watched this, Battlefield Baseball, I cannot recommend enough. If you are watching this and you're like, this weird version of grindhouse Japanese exploitation, I need to see more of this, check out Battlefield Baseball. And he's insanely better in that. And so when I went and looked that up today, I realized this was his acting debut.
Oh,
this was his first movie as an actor. Before this, he was just a stunt man. And so once you learn that, you're like, that's why he's so stilted in the way he's kind of delivering stuff. He's super flat and all of that. But you put a sword in this guy's hand, don't make him talk and just have him go to town, then he shines. Because that's what he had done before this movie. He wasn't supposed to talk. He was just supposed to make the action look good. So in his defense of the fact that he is just very tap water in this movie, this was when he was thrust into the spotlight. His acting debut, and he's now the protagonist in this martial arts horror action epic. That's a lot to take on for your first film. So if you want to watch something else where he does a better job, also enjoying this ridiculously bizarre style of filmmaking, check out Battlefield Baseball.
Nice. I had no idea of any of that. So thank you.
Yeah, I felt like we needed to mention him because, he's on the cover. We do see him a lot. And so
he's not bad.
Right.
He is not bad. I want to make sure that we say that. But I do think he is the weak point in this movie.
Right.
Speaking of things that are weak points, ? Let's move into filmmaking.
Okay.
So you talked about the grittiness, the grain. Tell me what like the technical aspects of this movie are for you.
So 2 things stand out to me a lot in this when it comes to like the technicality of the filmmaking. And one is the camera work, the cinematography in this is, I love that. So there are sometimes you watch an action movie, couple of Bourne movies, I'm looking at you, where every action scene is shot with this really frantic camera work to hide the fact that the choreography or the people doing it might not be that great at it, or 2, just to make it feel more, realistic, like the chaos of a real fight. This movie does this, but it doesn't solely do that. And I think that that's a very important defining line between a film that relies only on that and a film that uses it as a point, because some fights are hectic and chaotic. When the prisoner and the man very first start fighting and they're wide open and they're feeling each other out because it's been 500 years, it is very hectic and chaotic. So we get that camera work of boom, boom, boom. Here's this, here's that, here's this, here's that. Then we get that awesome that is maybe just a little bit too long, big circular pan where they're standing there back to back. And that's the moment where you're like, okay, they've now remembered each other. They're ready to go. And then we get great steady cam work after that, where the focus really is on this light versus dark, yin and yang thing. Everything you can do, I can do better. And we get really good sword fight with a camera that is showing us all of it. I love that they jump back and forth between those two things when it comes to the camera work in this. Like there are times when the camera's shaking a lot, and there are times when it's not. And it all feels very intentional as to what is going on in the movie. And so I do really, really love the cinematography in this thing.
I think the cinematography is one of the really strong points in this movie. And particularly those like 360 pans that they do. They're really great. My issue with the cinematography is that even though every shot works, there's inconsistency in why they do something.
Right.
So like, for example, like an hour into the movie, they do something that they only do one time, which is the girl and the prisoner are speaking directly into the camera.
Yeah.
They're looking right at us. It never happened at any time before then. It doesn't happen again after that. And it just, as a person who's into movies, it's disorienting. For someone who maybe isn't so into the technical aspects of it, they might not recognize why that feels weird to them. But it will feel weird. Like you use specific shots because they work, and there's shots that you use for effect, right? Like there's like in Jaws, we only ever see one time the dolly zoom, which is where it kind of zooms in on the sheriff's face, and then everything kind of like shrinks behind him.
Yeah.
Awesome shot. They only do it one time in that movie, but that is a very, very specific thing that's happening right there. There's a reason for it. Why are we doing that with the camera? I couldn't understand. And the other thing that to me was off is the lighting.
The lighting is bad.
The lighting in this movie is sometimes beautiful, sometimes awful, and usually just mediocre.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I say all this with the understanding that this movie cost $10,000.
Yeah, I'm not thinking there was a single set light on this movie. I feel like this was done with just the natural light that they could get in whatever forest they were shooting it.
I have to imagine that that's what they did, and that they probably used diffusers, which are basically like these big screens. They kind of just like block out light. You can kind of, with that, you usually you have a diffuser, you have a reflector, and you can kind of reflect light back onto your subject so that you can get natural light onto them, and it softens the light a little bit. It was very, very inconsistent. And I have to imagine that that's probably because some days they didn't have lighting assistants to be there and to use either reflectors or diffusers and really work with the light. The problem is that, that's all cinematography is working with light. So it's a shame, because when the movie looks good, it looks really, really good. And when the movie doesn't look good, it looks really, really not good. So it is a little bit of a shame, and it is something that I don't hold against this movie. It was $10,000. There are movies that cost 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times as much and don't look as good as this movie does ever. So I mean, fuck, we talked about that Jenny Penn movie,
Yeah.
right? And I think that movie looked like fucking garbage, absolute garbage all the time. Whereas this one only occasionally
Yeah.
looks like garbage. Um, so that to me is I think the only other area of this movie where I kind of struggle with it, and especially I hadn't seen this movie in, man, it had to have been close to 10 years. So coming back to it now, knowing so much more about film and filmmaking, um, it was a little bit difficult to be like, oh, why do that?
Yeah, and I can see that because I did have those moments where it wasn't just about the fact that it was grainy from now I know being blown up. There were times where just the lighting was just like God, but then there were some times where they they executed flawlessly. That very final scene, we know that it's the man, but he gets that great little step into the light, and in that one like second, his face is perfectly illuminated, and
Oh
yeah, removing all doubt that it's him. So you're right. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. Unfortunately, most of the time, it's just kind of middling.
And that scene, it's the only one that was done on a set. So
That's kind of what I
they had
figured.
total control over the lighting, and it looks beautiful. I will say the miniature work, not good.
No, no. The miniature work was not good.
And
Agreed.
I don't think it was the miniatures on their own. I think it was that it was not filmed correctly. You got to use very specific lenses for that. And they didn't. Oftentimes, what's done is what we call a tilt shift, which is where um, the field of like the depth of field is off because you kind of like shift the glass elements in the lens,
Mhm.
and it creates this like really disorienting effect, and it makes certain things seem really small and other things seem like even smaller than they should be, and so it kind of gives you this idea that it's like, oh wow, that stuff is like so far off in the distance and it's gigantic, it's the scale that they didn't do that.
Yeah, no,
So
this was very obviously just a model where the helicopter looked bigger than the buildings it was crashed next to. So
right. Now the music.
that's where I was gonna go next too. Yes.
Wow, this is one of the strongest points of this movie. Like,
Nobuhiko Marino, he has done a ton of movies for this director, a bunch of them, including one that I absolutely love called Alive that came out a couple years after this. Yes.
I mean, in every single way, every note that is played works. And not just works, but like it accentuates everything that's happening in that moment. Whether it's like the very traditional, like the shamisen playing at the beginning, and like later on in the scenes in the past with the samurai stuff, or like the techno metal stuff that's going on during the fights. This is exactly what needs to be played here. I don't care how dated it sounds, because it is dated. I don't give a flying fuck. If you don't like it, fuck you. You're
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, like we talk all the time about parts of a movie that become time capsules, so you'll always know exactly when it was released. The music that plays in the modern day scenes of this movie, you 100% know that is aughts, because that
Yeah.
I mean, like that's it sounds those things sound like they could have been samples of like a Power Man 5000 album, or
Yes.
that like that weird time when there was like this shift into like mainstream industrial, like by mixing in techno and making it more sound for radio. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like that really weird 3 to 4 years where those bands like Rammstein were making moves into the mainstream, and by including the elements of techno into their industrial. It's so perfect though. There are so many times where the swells and the kind of lulls in it are just timed amazingly, and they tell as much of the story as anybody's acting in this. The very first, I mean, like, and you can tell that right away in this movie to the fact that it is the first thing I wrote on my notes. And I've got 2/3 of a page of notes about this movie. The very first thing I wrote, that music hits you as soon as the movie starts. There's no doubt that it's going to be great as soon as the movie starts. And I absolutely love the music on this. And like I said, he has done multiple films with Kitamura, and like I said, came out 2 years after this one. It's called Alive. It's a sci-fi psychological just romp, but it's insane. And again, it's the same type of thing. The music is so poignant to everything that's happening. That is a pristine thing about this film that nothing negative can be said about.
Absolutely.
So there you've got it. I mean, we've run this thing down. We didn't spend that long on story, but neither did they. They just gave us 2 hours of movie that was mostly about characters. We gave you mostly about characters too. But it's that time in the show where we're going to rate this thing. So if you are new to the show, you just need a quick reminder. We do this every week. We like to let you know that we never rate a movie against other movies. We've talked about Battle Royale last week. We've mentioned Jaws and some of the other things that these people have done. But we're not comparing this to Battlefield Baseball or Alive or Jaws for that matter. We're just looking at Versus as a film. So for every movie we do, we create a unique rating system. And today we've got one that really is just super accurate to what this story could be. So Dave, out of a possible five holes punched through bodies, what do you give Versus?
I think that this is a great movie, even like in spite of its flaws. And I think that to be unkind to this movie is just it's wrong. It's wrong. There were significant flaws that I discussed, but I can't have them deduct that many holes punched through bodies. It would be unjust, I think, because if we're basing our rating solely on this movie, I mean, this movie's almost perfect on its own,
Right?
So I would have to go with an almost perfect rating of 4.5 holes punched through bodies.
Fair. I think that's absolutely fair. I am going to go a little bit higher. Because, like you say, while they are not to the detriment of this movie, I will go one step further and say that the flaws in this movie are to the betterment of it. And I think that it is because when I see those flaws like bad lighting or stilted dialogue or those things, they give me that grindhouse feel that makes my brain fuzzy. They give me that feeling of a movie that somebody made because they just love movies and wanted to get all of these bizarre things in their head out in a way that wouldn't affect anybody. I'm not even bothered by the fact that, you know, the special effects in this movie range from incredible to that doesn't even look like he actually got cut, right? Like there's, you know, like but it's everything in this movie is on that spectrum. And that's what should be expected from something like this. So, you know, is it flawless? No, that's why I cannot gold star it, but I will absolutely give this 5 out of 5 holes punched through bodies because I love the grindhouse feel of it all because of its flaws.
I love that this is getting a perfect rating. I couldn't, because I'm a giant fucking nerd, I couldn't give it a perfect rating of 5 holes punched through bodies, but I wanted to. So thank you. Thank you so much for helping justice be served.
Yes. So if you've enjoyed this, make sure you head to shiverpod.com where you can find links to all of our social media. We're on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all of those things at ShiverPod. To all of our newer listeners that we've gotten who have come and checked me out recently in my stints at the Gray Lady, I know we've gotten some new followers because I've been offering trivia points if you follow my podcast, and some people have. So if you're listening now because you've gone and followed, I hope you've enjoyed it. make sure you hit us up in the Instagram DMs if there's something you want to do. We don't have Summer Fan Fest officially planned, but summer is usually when we bring people on who don't always do our podcast. So if you've got a movie that you love and you look back through our catalog and we haven't done it, hit us up. Not only will we do it, but if you want to, we'll have you on. Like I said, Summer Fan Fest 3 is not official yet because we got to figure out our summer schedules. Dave just got onto summer break. But if you guys want it, get the ball rolling. Send us those DMs. Let us know what you want to watch and if you want to be on it, and we'll go forward from there.
Absolutely. So, on behalf of all of us here at Shiver, fright you very much.